I'm Leanne Caldwell with Puck News. And right now our next segment is one I'm super excited about. I've been covering these two for quite a long time. A dynamic bipartisan duo, Oklahoma Congresswoman Stephanie Bice and Pennsylvania Congresswoman Chrissy Houlahan. Thank you both so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
So we've been talking for a couple years about this issue of family leave. It's one of the most complex and perhaps challenging things to get through Congress. So you have a little bit of a development. There was a hearing recently on the issue, is that right? So
Go ahead, Steph.
Congresswoman Houlahan, let's start with you. Tell me about how important it was just to get a hearing on this issue.
It's incredibly important, and it's a huge advancement because it comes with a Republican majority and the support of the Democratic Party as well. It's a bipartisan conversation in the official places that it needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And so we can talk all we want, together about these issues, but it only happens just like Schoolhouse Rock. If there's a bill and we take a vote and it goes to the Senate and they say yes to, and the president signs it. And so the first step, as you might recall in your Schoolhouse Rock, is to go to committee. And that's an important conversation.
Yeah, it's the start of a conversation,
it's taken a long time to get here. Chrissy and I started working on this 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And it was, I think, deliberate and thoughtful. We took a lot of time bringing in different stakeholders to ask really deep questions about what they wanted to see. So many companies, multi-state companies, are offering paid leave, but it's really those smaller businesses that we were trying to figure out how do we fit them in a way that makes sense. And so we were really excited to be able to put something forward. It is bipartisan, and we're working on it being bicameral right now. Mm-hmm. And we look forward to putting this forward as quickly as possible to try to get a vote on it.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the details, because as we know, Democrats tend to want paid leave to be an entitlement. Republicans, it's not much of a priority for the party.
I don't know that that's true. I mean, if you think back to the first Trump administration,
they did
there was a huge push by Ivanka Trump to actually put a paid family leave initiative in place. But the question is, how do you pay for it?
Yeah, first let's talk about, we'll get to the pay-fors. What are the policies? How could you guys come to an agreement on the policies? What were those policies?
You're right in identifying that this is a enormously popular idea with the American people. Something like 70-80% of the American people would like to see a paid leave program for families or for medical purposes, and yet we are one of only 7 nations that doesn't yet have this program, developed nations that don't have this. And the devil is in the details. It is in the pay-fors, and it is also in the structure. And unfortunately, as we've been kind of screwing around with this, to turn a phrase, it's been 33 years since the FMLA has been passed, and a lot of states, more than a dozen states, have passed their own legislation. So some of the ideas that we worked out on a bipartisan way in doing was to try to sort of create the opportunity for these states to be able to understand and learn from one another, a best practices sort of clearinghouse. So that's the I-plan aspect of the solution set. One of the 4 bills that we've introduced. Another one has to do with tax benefits and tax relief for companies that are doing it, which, as you could probably imagine, is a more popular solution space for the Republican side of things. Another is a sort of a public-private partnership where states get to have seed money, seed capital effectively, to be able to prime the pump for their paid program that they're implementing, as long as they participate in I-plan. And the last one is, as Stephanie was mentioning, Representative Bice was recommending smallest businesses. The smallest businesses struggle possibly the most with this, and creating a kind of a pooling situation for them to be able to be insured in groups is the final aspect of it. And we collectively don't care who solves this problem. We don't care, who gets the credit or those kinds of things. I'm grateful for all the help we can get, because we absolutely need more paid leave for more people, and that's our mantra.
So, Congresswoman, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think for us too, sort of figuring out where the pitfalls were early on, which is why it was important to bring stakeholders in. And then understanding what states had already done. this proposal that we're putting forward, as Chrissy mentioned, is giving seed money to states, but it lets the states create their own plan because every state is different. They have different needs. Some may want to do sort of a strict public-private partnership model. Some may want to do an insurance pooling model, but we're giving them the ability to create something that is unique to them. And I think that's what's going to be successful about this is that it's not a federal mandate. It's not another entitlement program. It's really incentivizing the states to do something that we think should have been done 33 years ago.
So you mentioned the pay-fors, how you pay for it. Like, that's always the question on the Hill. And so what sort of ideas do you have?
We've actually come up with pay-fors for the bill. It's not a hugely expensive proposition
What is the cost?
It's about $500 million, I think is the latest number that,
Okay.
yeah.
Which sounds like an enormous number for the average person at home, but think
But
about
here,
what
a
it is
rounding
that,
error.
yeah, exactly, what that it's literally buying us is the ability for people, families to be able to have children, know that they have a period of time where they can bond and work with their family unit for a period of time. We were fortunate enough to be able to work this sort of solution out for federal employees. So now 2.5 million federal employees, all people in uniform have this opportunity and this benefit. And we really want to make sure that all Americans have that opportunity.
So are the pay-fors controversial then?
No, I think we've actually agreed on all of them. We found little areas, that of funding that were either not necessary. For example, some funding that had to do with Afghanistan, with dollars. Those are pulled back. So there's ways that we were able to find money that is sort of dormant, if you will, or sitting out there, or not controversial pay-fors that will move this forward.
So what is the challenge then?
There's a lot going on in Washington
Yeah.
right now.
Getting the attention of all of us in Washington when this is something that I think, as we've said, is enormously popular with people at home, but isn't necessarily in the top 5 or 10, on people's list here in Washington, which is, I think, unfortunate and a disservice to the people.
Have you been able to speak to Speaker Johnson about this?
I have spoken to all of the leadership as well as the White House, and we've been coordinating with the First Lady, actually. She's very passionate about family issues, and we recognize that. And so my office has been in contact with the First Lady's office to try to establish that sort of relationship and get some buy-in from the administration too.
And Democrats have been working on this for decades now, but we've also been socializing our office the idea that we got to start somewhere, and progress is progress. It's really, really important that we make progress.
How hard is that? Because there is a belief in the Democratic Party there's an internal debate on many issues in the Democratic Party, whether it's perfection or it's incremental progress.
Yep.
So what is the reception, I would say?
I think you've seen it in the fact that there have been hearings and that we've had the same conversations with the Rosa DeLauros of the world as you have had, with your leadership as well as with Hakeem and the leader Jeffries, for the same reasons. We really need to make sure that people understand we can't let another decade go by, another 2 years go by, another 5 years go by. We have a real opportunity, and if we believe that families are important, and we both believe, and both parties believe that, then we have to put our money literally where our mouth is and our policy where our words are. And that's what I think. I think we have an opportunity with what's left of this Congress.
You said that there is perhaps a bicameral possibility. So I know you're in the House, but what's the Senate doing?
The Senate actually is very excited about this. We've talked to a couple of our colleagues in the Senate side who are working on a couple of potential modifications, but they are willing to join us in this endeavor, and we're really excited about it. I think that I'm going to keep that quiet for now.
I mean, it's a little bit more of a clandestine group of people who have been working on it with us, but we've been actively coordinating with them over the 2.5 years that we're working together, and it's a similarly tight group that is very much aligned with kind of the solutions that we have proposed. And so we're hoping that whoever throws the ball, somebody's there to catch it, whether it comes from the Senate at us, or we throw it to them, or the president's budget, or the president's office mandates it. That's how we got paid leave for federal employees. It went through the NDAA years and years ago. And so we're looking for any solution.
What's the timeline for the Senate? Do you know?
Pretty quick. I mean, we have a few things that we're trying to loosen, we're trying to tie up, and I would expect in the next couple of weeks we may be able to have something solidified and a bill filed on the Senate side. But
Affordability is such an issue for Americans. Being able to have the ability to stay at home with your child or an aging parent or whatever the familial situation is really plays into the affordability issue. Do you think that leadership is connecting it to that issue, and could something get done this year, do you think?
Well, I think today or tomorrow on the Senate side, the Aging Committee or Aging Subcommittee is having a hearing on the sandwich generation and affordability. Mm-hmm. That's another, kind of way of talking about this, is the people who are in the middle, who maybe have grandchildren or children that they're still taking care of, and parents that they're taking care of as well. It's absolutely an affordability conversation and an affordability crisis. Last week in the district, we had roundtables on this, visited child cares on this, talked to senior centers about this very issue. And so I do think that we collectively are having those conversations about why this is important. If I could spend 1 second more on the child care issue. If you're able to stay home 12 weeks with your child and your spouse is able to stay home 12 weeks with your child is 6 months old. Mm-hmm. That means that child enters daycare, if they enter daycare, 6 months older, which is important developmentally and for the family, but it's also a financial help as well. It's less money. Exactly. And the child care provider ratio is lower too, so it's less. It's more efficient for the business as well. Mm-hmm. So this is a win-win-win for everybody if we can address this. So child care is very much tied to this
and I
issue.
think on the affordability front, one of the things that maybe doesn't get talked about that was part of the Working Families Tax Plan, now formerly the Big Beautiful Bill, was an increase in the flexible spending account. Flexible spending had not been increased in decades. It was a $5,000 cap for families that were looking to spend dollars on things like childcare or after-school programs, and so that's been increased to $7,500. We'd like to see that increase even more, and maybe have an inflation adjustment as well, because we recognize that that number hadn't been changed in quite some time. These are things that can be really, I think, have a huge impact on families. And as Chrissy said, this is really a nonpartisan issue. Families are important on both sides, and we need to figure out a way to help
nonpartisan issue.
To help move that.
It should be a no-brainer, and it's important that people in our leadership positions on both sides of the aisle hear the hue and cry of us down at, in our levels. Let's
I think it takes
important.
The moms sort of raising the flag a little bit and saying, hey, we have a problem here.
My oldest is 33. She was born the year of FMLA. She has a one-year-old. She's pregnant again. Her child care costs this year $22,000 for one child. We have a crisis.
Yeah. I remember speaking to you in your office first about this a couple of years ago, and you talked about COVID and kind of how it was really eye-opening for a lot of your constituents, and you probably believed this before, but how important it was for women being able to get back into the workforce.
Absolutely.
And so can you talk a little bit about that and how this group came together?
Well, I think we learned a lot during COVID, and for especially my constituents back in Oklahoma, the challenge was many of the moms were working outside the home and had to leave their jobs to be able to stay home with children that were now being schooled at home. Mm-hmm. And what happened was twofold. One, you had a lot of child care providers that were shutting down, in-home child care providers that could no longer actually take care of kiddos. So you had those people that were no longer able to sort of fill a need, and then you had professional women that were working, that were leaving their careers to go back and stay at home with littles to take care of them during that time. It was a double whammy, and we realized that impact is actually an economic impact, huge economic impact on the community, but also on the family. And so we were thinking through what are our options here. And as Chrissy mentioned, we had worked on expanding leave for service members and recognized the importance of that. And then we thought, well, we should really take a better look at paid leave. And let me be clear, there's been a lot of people that have done, I think, yeoman's work in trying to figure out how to make this happen. On both sides of the aisle. We've never gotten there. And so I think that for the two of us, there's a little bit of tenacity and don't take no for an answer. We want to keep pushing forward, and we want to see this done. And so it's for part of the last several months, it's been an education process for us, meaning it's our responsibility to go talk to our colleagues, to talk to leadership, to talk to the administration, to tell them why this is such a big deal and try to move it forward. And for me, selling it to my colleagues, why this is a good idea, what the benefits can be to a family, what the benefits are to community, the economy, businesses, is really important.
Given the political environment and political dynamic right now, is it for, Democrats potentially possibly on the precipice of taking back the House, which would be a divided government next year, do you think that that could actually be beneficial for something like this, where partisan legislation just won't happen?
I hope so, but I also am realistic about that. One of the fears I have is that if Democrats are in the majority, that we will overreach and again not get something done that's practical. We did have that opportunity to work with, and I was one of the folks who worked with Ivanka and with the first Trump administration and with the Armed Services Committee and with a variety of different people to get that paid leave for people in federal employment. And that happened because compromises were willing to be made. And we cannot just say as a group, oh, well, we're in the majority now and it's our way or the highway. No team should do that. So I'm hoping that we have the opportunity, when and if we're in the majority, to take ourselves seriously and get something done. But frankly, I still have hope for the rest of this term that something will happen.
There was a big story in the New York Times recently about how some companies are scaling back their own parental leave policies. What is your reaction to that, and does that present an opportunity or actually a bigger challenge for you all?
Well, it's certainly something that actually Chrissy flagged for me that was, I think, surprising that companies would be pulling back on that. But I think there's a couple of things that come into play here. Another provision of the Working Families Tax Plan was the ability for businesses to actually take a deduction, a larger deduction, if they were willing to provide paid leave for their employees. And looking at that as well as the benefit that company sort of loses if from a retention perspective. It's a big deal. I mean, companies are competing for great talent right now. And if you are a young person in a position that you want that ability and now your company's taking it away, well, then you're going to start looking around. And that's why I think it's so crucial for us to get paid leave programs across the country, because in some states there isn't one from a state standpoint. And so putting this together gives employees the ability to sort of look around and say, what's the best fit for me and my family? If you are not of childbearing age, that may not make a difference to you, but if you are, it's something that these families are going to take into consideration when applying for or leaving a job.
Definitely disappointed with those companies that have made that decision. I think that people who work with them, for them, will probably walk with their feet, take their feet and walk somewhere else. I think it's a bad choice, and I've expressed that to those companies.
You did?
Yes.
What was their reaction?
Well, we hope to have them come and actually be face to face. Their reaction was largely one of the economy, and I think that is a vicious circle that you can get yourself into if you cut benefits and then wonder why your employees are leaving.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about, you both are mothers. Did you have any sort of paid leave when you had your...
You go first.
I love this story though from Chrissy's perspective. Yeah. I did, and I didn't recognize or realize how unique that was. 25 years ago, my oldest daughter's 25, and I was given 8 weeks paid leave. And thought that was sort of normal and didn't realize that was very unusual that long ago. And so I'm very fortunate that I had that blessing to be able to stay home with not just my first daughter, but my second as well. And then I meet Chrissy, and her story is really pretty remarkable.
So I was in the military when I had my first child, and I had 6 weeks of convalescent, care. It wasn't maternity leave. It wasn't. It was. You were sick. That sick, exactly. And the child care wait list for the base child care was 6 months long. So that's one of the reasons, to be terribly honest, that I ended up separating, is I couldn't figure out how to string those things together. And my husband got 2 weeks of leave from his business, and so that just didn't work for us.
Oh, wow. So, amazing stories. Thank you for bringing your personal perspective into your policy today. We have just a little bit of time, and I want to do some quick one.
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business.
I ask unanimous consent.
I ask unanimous consent.
The senator from Nebraska is recognized.
The gentlelady is recognized.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Okay, Congresswoman Bice, I'm dying to know, who do you think the smartest woman or smartest person on the Hill is?
I have to say Tom Cole. He is
Really?
my delegation member. He is a historian. He is a wealth of knowledge and perspective, not only about the history of Congress, but history in general, and such a delight. And so Tom is probably my pick for maybe the smartest man in Congress.
Oh, what about you?
So I'm going to give the politic answer to this, which is there are remarkable people here in Congress. And I'm very serious about that. It's not boring, because one of the things I've realized is that
Most people don't think members are very smart up here.
untrue. We've got
Untrue.
people who are AI people, doctors,
Yeah.
educators, engineers, and that's the thing. People who come from a historic background, former Black Panthers. You know, it's an amazing cast of characters who are here. So it would be hard for me to quantify who's the smartest.
You didn't say Hakeem Jeffries for the leadership or for the committee position you want in the next
I'm a lot
Congress.
smarter than that.
Oh my gosh. Congresswoman Stephanie Bice, Congresswoman Chrissy Houlahan, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for joining 535. We'll be right back after a quick break with a couple more amazing segments, including with my colleague Mariana Sotomayor, who is speaking with Representative Linda Sanchez. And later on, we will have Congresswoman Bice's favorite, most smart,
Good.
Representative Tom Cole. We'll be right back.